Okay. Tell me, is everyone in the waiting room, is everyone present?
Everyone's present.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so guys, just to basically bring everyone up to speed, about 2-3 months ago, Nico approached me to look at reviving this chapter, the attractions chapter within the TTA. And although he said that we are the sexy part of the industry, the tourism industry, I totally agree. But unfortunately, the sexy part of the industry also took a major knock the last 2 years, as everyone knows, and I'm sure everyone can feel it as well. So the purpose of this meeting is twofold, is to try and revive the attractions chapter within the TTA. Now that's what we're doing now, just getting everyone involved again, communicating a little bit more, networking between us, and to get the chapter going again, so that we so that we can all maybe reap the benefits out of it. But then also it is also obviously to revive the tourism within Tshwane. And I think this is the most important thing, because that is the pocket. We all need to revive tourism and bring the tourists back to Tshwane, and especially for our chapter as well. So since we started 3 months ago, or I started with the chapter, we had a relook at the full chapter and the different categories within the chapter. I'm just going to quickly mention this. We decided on a couple of chapters that we're going to break, because the attractions chapter is extremely broad. You know, if you look at the other chapters like restaurants, it's very easy, and accommodation. But for the attractions, it is extremely wide, and you can imagine how many different members we can have. So we've tried to narrow it down into different categories. I'm going to just mention the different categories. So number 1 is adventures and activities. Number 2 is arts and culture. Number 3 is history, which is basically your museums. Number 4 is nature reserves. Number 5, theme parks. Number 6, sports and sports events. And then the last one is other, all your smaller ones that will fit within the different categories. Okay, so like I said, we're trying to revive the tourist and the attractions chapter. And I think the most important thing is to network and work together within the chapters and to collaborate. And there's basically 4 ways of how we can do this. I know the new buzzword everywhere in tourism is packaging and putting packages together. But I think the collaboration between the different industries is very important. And this is where we need to start. So when we say collaboration, I've also now narrowed it down to basically 4. And that is collaboration between the different products within our categories. So in other words, if you take your chapter, the attractions chapter, and you look at your category, let's say, for example, adventure. I'm going to call it adventure because that is what I know. What the purpose is and what the focus should be is for product owners within this chapter to come together. Yes, we are all obviously competition, but we need to work together and put packages together for a tourist to spend a whole day. I'm going to give you a little example. There is a very nice antique route that started the Riviera. Basically what it is 6 antique shops got together and they drew up a map and they market all 6 shops as a antique route together. So when a client walks into the first shop and he cannot find what he's looking for, they can immediately show into one of the other shops, and combining all the marketing of all 6 shops together. Obviously now it's a route, it's a destination. People go there and they spend the whole day there by visiting the different shops, not only one. So within the category and within, let's say, adventure, we can set up something like what they've done in the Eastern Cape as well. Let's say, call it a Big 5 adventure, where you can take, let's say, a product from product owner, like bungee jumping, ziplining the next, quad biking the next, abseiling, and let's say go-karting, from different product owners, and you put it together, and we basically make one day product or one package deal together. So that's the first thing, is collaboration between different products within the category. The next one is using the different categories within our attractions chapter. And that is where we do a day package where we will have an adventure product combined, let's say, arts and culture, or something out of the sports, different chapters, and put products together to make one big product as a day tour or a destination. The third one is obviously collaboration within the chapters. Let's say, for example, the accommodation, the restaurant. If you do a day tour and you put something together, obviously people need to eat at least once. So they already bring in the other chapters, like the restaurants. We all need the tour operators. We all need the transport guys to obviously take our guests and tourists between different places. So combine the different chapters to make a full and unique product that we can then sell, package together and sell. And the last one, and this is a very important one, I think a new thing that's starting to happen, is collaboration between the private sector, in other words, most of us, and then the municipality or your governmental organizations. For example, the nature reserves, some of the resorts. And obviously something like taxi associations as well, not just your private sector. But I think that is something that we're going to have to look in future to work together and put proper packages, in other words, a unique product together. So that is basically what we're trying to do and what the purpose is of this meeting, but also for reviving this attractions chapter, is to start somewhere to identify the different role players and the different members within this chapter. And then, unfortunately, it's very difficult these days to network and to see each other's products and to meet each other face to face. But I think that hopefully, the next meeting we'll be able to do that. But I think this is the thinking of where we're trying to go and trying to get together and see what we can do as a chapter to revive tourism as a whole in Tshwane. But for this purpose, then I'm going to jump to the next part of the agenda, and that is introducing our guest speaker to you guys, Sabine Lehmann. Sabine is, and I pedigree of Sabine, and it's a list as long as my arm. So I'm not going to give a whole pedigree to you guys, but Sabine is the CEO of CURIOSITAS and the Specialist Attractions of Tourism Futures Consultancy. She's got 25 years experience. That's basically how old I am. She's been the MD of the Table Mountain Cableway. We all know that, what that is. She was the opening COO of the Zeitz Museum of Contemporary Art in Africa. I think one of the most important things is she's the founding member and president of this African Association of Visitors, Attractions and Experiences, the only attractions association in Africa. Something to look into and maybe join as a committee as well. Okay, I think the most important thing of Sabine is that she's a very good friend of the TTA, and she was also recently a tourist in Tshwane herself. And that experience and what she's learned there, I think it's very important for us to listen and to get some feedback from Sabine with all her experience and expertise. So, Sabine, thank you very much for joining us and parting with some of your wisdom. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Great. We'll just share the screen. Thank you, Hanro. Okay, super. So my consultancy is called CURIOSITAS, which means curious in Latin. And essentially I named it that because I focus on two things. One is visitor attractions. And so we bring curios or memories back from the attractions that we visit. And then if I look forward into the future, I did a master's in futures thinking, We bring curios or artifacts back from the future to try and understand them today to see where trends are going. And I'll talk more about that later. Yeah, let me just see if I can forward this. Okay, now I can, right, let's see. No, it's not forwarding. Maybe, Nico, you can just forward for me. One slide. Ah, okay, yeah, thanks. So that's me in summer and a sunny day when I'm dressed a little bit brighter. You can follow me on Twitter at CityBulkKid or have a look at my website, curiositas.co.za. And as Hanro said, I'm an attraction specialist with 25 years experience. I do a lot of work consulting for feasibility study for new attractions, improving on attractions, finding ways to get greater ticketing income, and also started the African Association of Visitor Experiences and Attractions. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let me try and move this myself again. No, won't let me do it. So Hanro, it's going to, I mean, Nico, it's going to be you. There you go. So, you know, there are less and less reasons to leave home. And this was the case even pre-pandemic. Research had shown that people were spending more on in-home entertainment than out-of-home entertainment, more time and more money. And more importantly, next slide, we have invested in our in-home entertainment. So this makes the in-home entertainment a little bit sticky because you've invested in cocooning, in home basing, bunkering, nesting. The Swedish word is HYGGE, which means warm and comfy. And you can see that even pre-pandemic, the percentage of American population that prefers to stay at home during the weekend has been increasing over the last decade. Now, the pandemic only accelerated this. And whilst I do think we are looking for reasons to leave the home, and we'll talk about that later, as I said, we've also invested very much in sticky behavior at home. And by sticky behavior, I mean literally investing in time and money into making your home a place of entertainment and a place of fun. We've invested in Netflix, we've invested in online courses, we've invested in figuring out how to get meals delivered and food delivered from Woolies. We've invested in home gyms or virtual apps to do yoga at home. Of course, we're all working from home, so that's even less of a reason to leave home. And we entertain at home, and that includes entertaining family and friends. In the past, maybe we went out more to restaurants. So those are all reasons why people are not only stuck at home, but invested in being the home. And we've got to try to find ways to make it comfortable for them to leave the home.
Sabine, can you try and click with your mouse here at the bottom,
okay,
the arrow, and see if that works?
Okay. No.
Awesome.
There we go. Okay, wait.
Cool.
So all is not lost. The top emotional drivers for leaving home. Hang on. Oops, now it's going too fast. Now it's, hang on. Sorry guys, let me just find my slide. Why is it not going back? Weird. There we go. The top emotional drivers for leaving home, which was done in a study in the USA recently, people said they were going to leave home in order to have fun together. So the issue is fun and together. The other thing is that people are wanting a unique experience that is out of the ordinary. So it's an experience that you can't get at home, something that involves all 5 senses, and quite importantly, something that usually creates an emotional connection, because on-screen and virtual doesn't raise the emotions as much as real-life experiences, and neither does it speak to your senses. And the third reason to leave home is really something that's entertaining for both adults and children. Again, very important, adults and children. So we are really in competition for people's time, attention, and discretionary spend. And believe it or not, the least of these is discretionary spend. If what you offer is of value for people's time and for their attention, and particularly for the entire family, you will find that they will find the discretionary spend, because remember, people are leaving home less. So they are choosing to spend more in a more directed way. And when they leave home, they usually have a budget in their pocket. And what we have found, certainly for attractions that have opened in Europe, is that whilst there are fewer visitor spends, visitor numbers, the discretionary spend or the secondary spend on site is higher than it was pre-pandemic, because people have decided this is a day out that they're doing. Now I've lost the little, there we go, okay. So I myself happened to visit Tshwane. It was in about May. That's myself and my niece. We visited my mother-in-law, and she's based in Krugersdorp. And I said to her, we never go anywhere when I come. I don't want to be stuck in Krugersdorp. I want to do something in Pretoria. And in particular, I wanted to see the Javid UP Museum because I'm really into art. So we overnighted in Pretoria and we decided to go see the Javid. We had a wonderful time, but that was only a 1-hour experience. I then actually had the rest of the day to complete. I didn't want to go back yet. And it was incredibly hard to find information as to what to do next. There was very little guidance. If you're interested in art, because I've been to the Javid, where else would you want to go? And a lot of the places were obviously closed, to be expected. And then, you know, I don't know Tshwane at all. So I didn't know where is the restaurant, where are the restaurants, because I don't want to eat in a mall. I actually had to WhatsApp a friend of mine in France to say, you were in Pretoria recently, where is the restaurant street that I can go to? And I think she directed me to, is it called Hazelwood? Something like that. And so I drove up and down there and found a restaurant. Then we just drove into the center of town and we Googled on the way, what can we see? We found the Pretoria Art Museum. We took a chance, found our way there. It's quite fenced in, and that fence itself was actually closed. So we didn't know if it was open or not. I had to hop out the car. I had to ask the guy at the gate, are you open? Yes, he was. And he opened the fence and we could drive. That was another 1-hour experience. And I actually found it very charming. The art in there is amazing. It's a little bit run down. But by now we still hadn't had a coffee. Where can I have a coffee? I asked the guy there. He couldn't direct me anywhere. There was no coffee in the complex itself. We drove around a bit again. We had to look for parking. We had coffee. Then we Googled on our phones. Remember, everything is done on your phones, right? So if you're not available or easy to download on your phone, people aren't going to find you. So then we said, right, let's just go to the Union buildings. So we went and have a look there. Again, there's no coffee. So, you know, by now we were starting to get hungry. Where can we go and eat? Okay, we found our way to that street in Pretoria with a lot of restaurants. Then we Googled some more. I couldn't see whether Freedom Park was open or not. I wanted to go. It's a lovely museum, even though it's quite under-visited. So we drove towards Freedom Park, then saw the outline of the Voortrekker Monument and said, well, let's swing by and go to the Voortrekker Monument, which was a wonderful experience. And we ended up having some coffee in their little coffee shop. I bought something in the retail. I bought some rooibos tea, and eventually we took ourselves home. But I can tell you that it was a lot of hard work. And I think if I didn't have my co-driver, my niece, with me to Google and to research while I was driving, I might have given up, quite honestly. So that's the one thing around collaboration, is having more ideas from people as to what to do next at each of those sites would have been useful. So tourism experts are actually fearing quite a long road to recovery. And I know Tshwane is relatively dependent on domestic visitors, first of all within your city, and secondly probably business visitors, which is I think actually a good thing. Cape Town is learning a big lesson about having been overly dependent and overly focused on international tourists. The UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and also IATA, the International Airline Association, are both forecasting a return to 2019 levels only towards 2023 or 2024 and later. So that's a long recovery period. And so for those of you that have long relied on the domestic market, you're on better seats, I think, than those that are relying on the international markets, which is great. So attractions are really perfectly placed for the post-lockdown era. I call it the post-lockdown era, not the post-COVID era, because COVID is not going away. Like flu, it'll be with us for many years to come. We will find ways of controlling it. We will find ways of ensuring everyone's vaccinated. But the idea that we perhaps had 18 months ago that there's an end, I think we need to put to bed. It's really a post-lockdown era that we're talking about. And post-lockdown era, people are wanting to get out of the house and to do things. So it might be less often than before, But once they decide to leave, they do so with great intention. They do so with money in their pockets, and they usually do so to socialize. And I'll talk a little bit more about locations-based socialization, which is really where you guys are all based. So it's a big task for us all to think about how we're going to move into this future. And really, my advice to you is start where you are and use what you have. In most cases, we have a lot of underutilized connections and underutilized assets. And we certainly have a lot of domestic market that haven't actually visited our sites before. And it's good news. It means that there is an opportunity to build up from where we are and not have to massively reinvest or rebuild in things from scratch. So the first thing, and this pertains to my day in Tshwane, is you need to make it easy to choose you. I talk about something called the Netflix effect, and that is really almost the dumbing down of entertainment. You lie on the couch, you flick through Netflix, you've paid 100 Rand a month for it. It's got whatever you want. Your son or your grandmother on a different room watching on the same account, watching what they want to watch. If you don't like something, the switch out effect is really cheap. You just switch over to something else. There's no negotiation around where you want to go, around which movies you want to watch, because all three of you can watch separate movies. There's no collaboration around what time to leave, how much petrol money there is, parking money, what you want to do. It's incredibly easy. So you need to think about the fact that your sites, if you're looking for someone's attention, is actually vying for that ease of use. And let me tell you, the ease of use that I felt when I went to Tshwane was not easy at all. The switch out effect is expensive. So if you go to a museum and you decide you don't like it, it's expensive to make another choice. I had to research really hard. Where is a coffee shop? Where is a restaurant? What can I do next? How can I fill my whole day? So in making it easy to choose you, you need to focus on not just your own site, but those around you, and really to create a community. Whether it's a beautiful park that's down the road where someone can take a picnic with them, whether it's a coffee cart from the coffee shop that's around the block, or a voucher at your site that gives people 10% off at the coffee shop, or just sends people there, something that makes it easier for people to make their choices, because we have decision fatigue. And if you, again, compared with how many decisions you have to make when you're watching Netflix, which is basically zero, that's really what you're up against. So in making it easy to choose you, you really need to engage with social media in all its forms. And I'm finding that the social media accounts of visitor attractions are often not engaging enough. So remember, there's more than just Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. There's also TikTok. It was the biggest and most downloaded app of 2020. And it's certainly where the younger generation are. I follow the National Cowboy Museum in, I don't know, Tennessee. And I followed it because they did such an interesting thing. They got their head of security to take over their Instagram account or their Twitter account, both, I think. It all started on March the 17th, just as shutdown started, because he was the only frontline worker that was still allowed to work. And he started off his account saying, "Hello, my name is Tim, and I'm head of security for the Cowboy Museum. I've been asked to take on the additional duty of social media management while the museum is closed. I'm new to this, but excited. My team will also continue to protect and monitor the museum. Thanks, Tim Send." Now, behind the scenes, this account was co-managed by the marketing team of the Cowboy Museum. But they let this chap be the voice. And the voice that he presented, and it's worth going to have a look what they've done. There's a couple of case studies. I mean, he increased the following from, I think, 1,000 followers up to like something like 300,000 followers. Partly because he sort of made mistakes on purpose. He was really honest. He gave behind the scenes information about objects that people weren't usually interested in. And he just presented a very accessible, interesting voice for the museum. And they have seen massive, massive online following, but also visitations now that the museum is open, because he became this wonderful, authentic voice of the museum. So really, I want you to think about what strange objects could you feature in your museum? Something interesting, something different. How can you connect with what's going on around you? So if it's World Cat Day, I mean, does your site have a stray cat that you feed and follow? Is there a picture of a cat in your museum collection that you might want to share? Create a virtual community. So often I find attractions and domestic tourism sites, they don't follow each other, because that's how I find other things. If I was on the page for Jab It Up, I would have been following what they're doing and seeing if there was a coffee shop close by that they maybe connect with every day. You know, maybe the curator says, I start my day with a coffee from Vida, and it's only because it's only around the corner. That would have sent a message to me. Then it's also important to have a content pillar. So you have one little simple main message, or a fun idea, or an authentic voice, or an authentic topic that is a little bit of a filter that you talk about once or twice a week. In this case, it was the head of security. It was his voice that was the content pillar. And then, of course, be visual. So the world has moved into a very visual way of consuming content, and hence it's not only posting pictures, but posting very well curated pictures with great imagery that's interesting, that's different, that then encourages people to take the same picture themselves. They want to go stand in that spot, the one content pic that perhaps you always take of the perfect view. In Cape Town, we've got those yellow frames, and that's all it does is kind of hone people into the idea that this is a place to stop and take a picture and have a view. Please don't do a yellow frame. They've been done to death. I'm sure you can think of something else. The next thing is to curate the pace of your site. So you know your site, and you know your region or your area, your street, your neighborhood better than anybody else. And really it's a case of guiding people to have the very best experience on your site and in your neighborhood. They don't know it. They don't know how fast to go through. They don't know where to go for parking, for the coffee, for a great little corner shop that sells interesting locally made items. You know, this is something that you can help curate for people so they can pace themselves. Because if they get too tired, they will leave early. If they get bored and they don't have the coffee just when you need the coffee fix, or the cool drink because it's a hot day, they will also leave and go somewhere else. So you need to take ownership not only of your own site, but I would say of your community and your neighborhood, so that you can help your guests curate their day fully. You know, the one thing to think about is that when a guest leaves home, they're looking really for a half-day experience or a full-day experience. And if your site only offers a 1 hour experience, that's okay. Jab It Up, Zeitz Art Museum, it's about a 1 hour experience. But what was lacking is where to next. I have half a day to spend. Where can I spend that time? Give me some information, give me some ideas, some options, because I then judge the way that I left home and the time and money I spent by driving all the way to Tshwane on the entire morning. I don't judge it just on the 1 hour, even though that was my original intention. Then the other thing is to track mega trends and not buzzwords. So what I mean by this is that buzzwords are really fashion or short trends that, you know, last for the next year or two. You need to invest in longer term trends, and that we call them mega trends that are really driving the experience economy. So the first one of that is demography. And in South Africa, we have a very, very young population. We are the youngest continent, and South Africa has, as for the rest of Africa, has a very young population. It's very different to Europe, where when I talk about demography in Europe, I talk about speaking to an older demographic. So here we have a young demographic. It means they've got young children, hence the focus on family entertainment. Young people, you know, value, for example, food and beverage as part of their experience a lot more than older people. Focus on hyperlocal, and this has only been accelerated during COVID, where people have literally become hyperlocal to the extent that they're just in their lounge, but very much more involved in their neighborhoods, very much more involved in their cities because you can't travel as easily. So focusing on what makes your region, your community different to everybody else. So why come to this part of Tshwane and not another part of Tshwane? What is there for me to discover? And malls, for example, are not a hyperlocal experience. They are the same everywhere. They all look the same. So being outside of a mall is a very important differentiator for you. The experience economy, I will talk about that a little bit more later. Really, people are investing in experiences and not goods anymore, and we'll talk about that later. The transformation economy is an investment that people are doing now into personal transformation. So this comes both in the form of health and well-being, it comes in the form of education, it comes in the form of transforming the relationship with your friends and family. So having a day out with them is a real investment in those personal relationships that have all been suffering during COVID. And people really are prepared to invest in that. Health and well-being, as I've mentioned, is an investment in your mental well-being, and we know that a visitor attraction in any shape or form is an investment in mental health, mental well-being. It's getting outside of the house, it's trying something new, it's finding space to connect with others, to connect with yourselves. So again, visitor attractions are really well placed for this. Then there's tech dependency. So in the past, I said there was a space for people to provide low tech or no tech, as people wanted to leave tech behind and get their kids off their devices. Now I think that's actually changed. People are so connected with their devices. I mean, I needed to, find my way around Tshwane in terms of directions. I needed to find what's open and closed. I use it for payment. Really, everything is done on your phone, and you need to make sure that you are reaching people through all those methods that you can. And finally, there's location-based socialization. So what has changed is pre-COVID, of course, we should socialize outside of the home, but we also very much socialize inside the home. And I'm sure you've noticed now that when people can, they say, let's meet somewhere, let's go do something. Just yesterday, a colleague said to me, she lives 14 kilometers outside of town in Claremont, and she said, I need to get out of my suburb. Let's meet in town. Let's meet somewhere where we can have a coffee and perhaps do something together, go to a museum or something. And then it's a work meeting, but we're doing it through meeting at a location. Or now I don't know what's going on here. Okay, there we go. So those are the trends to look out for. Another big trend that's been accelerated through COVID is actually fun. People have had a terrible 18 months, we all have. Mental health is an issue we're all dealing with, whether it's severe mental health or just low affect, slightly lack of energy, lack of new ideas, lack of interest, just basically lack of fun. I'm certainly feeling that way. And the USA Toy Association did some research earlier this year and found that the toys that are selling the most are ones that encourage people to rediscover play. Toys that are not just for kids, in other words, adult toys. Puzzles were a huge seller, as were other new inventive adult toys. Toys or games that include music, and this was very much driven by the TikTok revolution. And then what they called sensational toys. So these were toys or games that helped people connect with themselves, help people slow down, basically fed into people's need for mental health. And what I thought around this is really it's the same need that people have when they leave home to visit an attraction, is they are wanting to rediscover these same things. If they're investing in these toys to play at home with these themes, we know that they will invest in visitor experiences and attractions outside of the home with these themes. So of course, all the while, support the fun, don't spoil the fun. Your COVID protocols need to be in place. I don't need to talk about that, but they can be done in a fun manner. They do not need to be done in the sort of instructive transactional manner. There are ways of sharing information and reminding people to keep their distance, to keep their masks on in a way that's in theme for your site, and that's quite fun. So find a mascot and use that mascot throughout your site. So the most important thing here is that don't deliver a product, but deliver an experience. Basically, we are all discovering new ways of being and not new ways of buying. And researchers found that people are saying happiness is no longer focused on possessions, but by creating, sharing, and capturing experiences. So in the past, it was very well known, you saw on Instagram, people would open packages of things that they've bought and share and show things that they have bought just 3 or 4 years ago. But possessions are no longer being shared on social media. People are sharing where they've been, they're sharing who they're with, and they're sharing experiences. And it has become the new way to invest in yourself. They have really become a meaningful part of our identity. And part of the reason for this really is that an experience has a very long-lasting tail of happiness that it creates. When you buy a commodity, a good, whether it's a new computer or a piece of jewelry or a new pair of shoes, research have shown that the that the happiness created around that and the serotonin released is very short-lived. It's really in the moment of buying, the moment of unpackaging, and the moment of wearing it for the first time. But after that, there's wear and tear, and there are newer shoes and better shoes and more expensive shoes. And so the happiness index related with the object actually decreases quite quickly. What they have found with experiences is that the opposite. First of all, in the run-up to deciding on having an experience, there's a great amount of happiness and fun in saying, should we do X or should we do Y? Do you want to go to quad biking? Do you want to go abseiling? Do you want to go to a museum? And discussing the fun that you're going to have and making those plans creates a great amount of happiness. Then, of course, having the experience itself creates a great amount of happiness. More importantly, afterwards, there's a long tail of happiness related to experiences as you share memories. A year later, Google Photos or whatever brings up, Facebook memories, brings up those memories. And how often do we reshare them? Look what we did a year ago. So it has a very, very long tail. We don't share a year ago I bought this pair of shoes. We share a year ago, this is what I did with my family and look how much fun I had. And that's all marketing and all adds value to the experience that you give. In these COVID times, they've proven that experiences foster social relationships. Again, in the group that's traveling, also social relationships between your site and the group. So don't think that once they've left you, it's over. Remember, they will be sharing your memories probably a year later when those memories come up again. And it also fosters relationships within the little community of where you're situated. So within that new neighborhood that you've discovered. So all of these things form part of the tools you have to capture the consumer's, and I say this again, time, attention, and discretionary spend. And you really do need to think of all three. When you're asking people to leave home, you're asking them to invest in a lot of time. You think of your site as a 1-hour experience or 3-hour experience, but it's the time taken to travel there, it's the time taken to park, it's the time taken to pick up a picnic on the way. All of those things are part of the experience, and all of them need to be packaged in a way that creates the perfect day out for that family. And that's where the collaboration with each other is really so important. So it's also important to design the sweet spot. So the richest experiences cover all 4 experience realms, and that's really entertainment, aesthetic, educational, and the active. And again, I would encourage you when you're putting packages together or collaborating or thinking about who you can work for in your neighborhood, is to look at, first of all, your site in terms of, does it have all these 4 sweet spots? So does it offer something educational? Does it offer something to do? Is it a beautiful surrounding that speaks to our mental health needs of calmness and quietness and aesthetic beauty? And is it fun? Is it something to enjoy? And not all sites are able to offer all 4, but you will be able to collaborate with somebody in your neighborhood to say, you've learned something at this museum, now go across the road to this park to let your kids run around and expend some energy, because the park is also a very beautiful place, and perhaps around the corner, there's a coffee that you can have. So you're curating this day out for everybody and keeping them in your neighborhood and keeping the spend close. It's really important to consider secondary spend, first of all, for your own site, and again, for your greater community within the Tshwane Tourism Association. So we are busy doing the first ever benchmark study of visitor attractions in South Africa. And it is very surprising to me how few people are sufficiently engaged with the concept of secondary spend and sufficiently engaged with maximizing it. The biggest cost to you is getting people into your site, getting their attention, getting their commitment to the time to come to you. That is the most difficult part of your job. Once they are in the door, you need to now find ways that they spend as much time and money with you. And I always say time and money, because remember, the more time they spend with you, the greater the value they perceive. So if they've spent 100 Rand, but it's a 1-hour experience, well, then the experience is worth 100 Rand. But if you've encouraged them to stay longer because they've had a coffee, in their heads, it's now a 1.5-hour experience for 100 Rand, which feels cheaper. So there is a close relationship between dwell time on site and the value for money that people perceive your site to have. And so too few places offer the opportunity for a secondary spend. And ideally, you're looking for something that's unique just to yourself. And again, if you can't offer it, collaborate with somebody in your neighborhood. You know, is there a little baker around the corner that can do biscuits in the shape of the Voortrekker Monument, or biscuits in the shape of the big wheel, something that pertains to you? When I was managing director of the Cableway, we created Dussie-shaped biscuits. These things sold like hotcakes. They were basically shortbreads with icing on, and every single kid that walked in would say, I want a Dussie biscuit, and I'm either going to eat it right here, or I'm going to buy 2 and take 1 for my friends. So there are a number of ways of creating secondary spend, and not, you know, the average reliance on ticketing income at attractions is around 70% of your income. So you need to find secondary spend at food and beverage and retail. You can create virtual experiences because that also extends the collaboration. Photo memories on site are very, very popular, like you get at Joburg Zoo and at Pretoria Zoo. People want to take home that memory. And again, if you can't offer it, collaborate with your community for secondary spend because they'll be very grateful for the business, and they'll be sharing things your way as well. Then, I've spoken a lot about this, create a local community. You know, fellow colleagues, this is a lonely place that we're all in. We're not able to connect with each other as much as we can. And I think it's really important that we connect with each other as professionals to learn from each other, and that we connect with others in the attractions industry and others within the tourism industry. Because we can always learn from each other. We can jig each other along and cheer each other up. We can share information, and more importantly, we can ensure that our visitors stay within our own ecosystem, because why encourage them to go back to Johannesburg and spend money there when you're trying to get them to spend time and money in Tshwane? So it's the same for visitors. They want to connect with your local community. And if you live in Tshwane, on the one side of Tshwane, that doesn't mean you know the community on the other side. So if you've made a trip out, you want really visitors to be able to connect with the full offering of that neighborhood. So again, connect with those in the vicinity, create a virtual community. I'll talk about the coffee shop effect. And this is the fact really that you will see that coffee shops are always busier, and restaurants, if there are 3 or 4 in a row. A single coffee shop is harder to drive business for. If there's 3 or 4 in a row, you find it creates a vibe, it creates interest. It's a bit like when you are driving along and there's a pit stall. One sign isn't enough. You need a whole lot of signs to remind you there's a pit stall coming up, stop now, turn left now, one sign and you've driven past. So you really want to create a community so that people, so that again, it's a full curated day out. And it's the same with the cookie crumb effect. It's basically you're leading people with little touch points throughout. And they can be a particular beautiful street to walk between your site and the next, because there is interesting architectural buildings, or it's a very well, easily directed sign. So think about what your community needs and how you can help build that up so that you can all speak to your visitor as a single voice. Then I want you to be honest with yourselves. Why should people actually visit you? And I find often we know our sites really well, but we don't see it through the eyes, of someone who hasn't been there for a long time, someone who's been there recently, and ask why would you come again? And why would a repeat? What would you need to create a repeat business? And then speak to people who haven't come. Now, this doesn't have to be a complicated thing. As I said at the Museum Association meeting is, I challenge you to go home and speak to 10 of your family and friends and to say, have you been to X? And if not, why not? And really ask the question and be open-minded. Don't defend the reason. Just listen to the reasons, because the information is all there. I see sites saying we have spellbinding stories to tell. And I then want to say, really, because it doesn't look spellbinding when I look at the social media accounts. It's a picture of a dusty object. What would be spellbinding is why this object is important. Someone saying in an interesting voice, I found this really in an interesting discovery of why this object is interesting. Maybe it looks quite boring, but hey, this is why it's actually a first. Again, I see people saying, join us for a fun day out, but just saying it's a fun day out, that's not good enough. Make it a fun day out and make sure that the images you share show fun, show people smiling, show families. And then again, research not only why people visited, that's the easiest one, research why people aren't visiting and ask honestly, and research what people would want to spend on as secondary spend once they've come to see you. So what are locals looking for on a day out? Again, they're looking for value, and the value that they're looking for is time well spent, because memories and experiences are measured in time. They're not measured in money. They're looking for a place to socialize. So locations-based socialization is a massive, massive trend that has been on the go for the last 3 years. It's accelerated with COVID. So places where people can connect with each other. They're looking for a place to have fun. We need some lightheartedness here, even if your site is perhaps a museum or a serious site. There are still ways to have lighthearted fun and for people to breathe. They're looking for personal well-being. That's both in mental health and wellness. They're looking for an emotional connection, and they're looking for a complete out-of-home experience. They're not just looking to go somewhere, do one thing and return home. They want to come back exhausted, flop on the couch and say that was a great day out from start to finish. So the important thing really is to get fresh ideas and to upskill yourself, to connect with others and to collaborate with others. Again, you can follow me on City Bulk Kid. You can follow AVIA, the African Association of Visitor Experiences and Attractions. And I would encourage you to do two things. One is to join our live chats that are once a month. They are for free. And we connect with the industry and we share best practice and case studies. And that's for free for 45 minutes once a month. And we also have a virtual conference coming up on the 19th of August. It's a really, really high quality conference. It's 1 day only, and we have about 4 or 5 international speakers that will be speaking to things that have worked overseas and are definitely on their way here. And I find what we put together is both inspiring, but also very practical and very useful for how we can work together. As I say, start where we are and use what you have. And that's me.
Sabine, thank you very, very much. I think that is so much information. I'm very glad Nico has recorded this session because I'm going to have to go back a couple of times to go through this. Very, very interesting. I think my attention span, I'm still stuck on slide number 3. I'm going to open the floor for a couple of questions now from anyone, but from me, firstly, I think it was slide number 3. You spoke about the Cape Town that overinvested in the international market versus the domestic market, and I totally agree. And I think Tshwane is maybe not that much, but to a degree as well, depending on your different product. My question to you is, what innovative measures or ways did the product owners in Cape Town, what did they do to change their focus from the international to the domestic market? Not only marketing wise, but did they do any specials? Did they bring their rates down? Did they, what can we do to invest in our domestic market and get our domestic market to start using or investing in our attractions?
Yeah, so I think the answer is they haven't cracked that nut yet. They haven't done that well. They found themselves scrambling because they were overly reliant on the international market. What I can say is when I was the CEO of Table Mountain Cableway, when I took over, I said to the board, we are way too reliant on the international market. It's so many things can happen that dent that market. The drought, Ebola, which affected people wanting to fly to South Africa, volcano ash clouds, and of course now as it happens, the pandemic. So my big focus at the time was to get a greater balance of domestic visitors. And by the time I left, the Cableway had on average 45% domestic, and in season, in school holidays, it was up to 80% domestic. And some of that was, you know, specials is a difficult thing because it costs money to run our attractions. And if you discount the ticketing price, you know, visitors love it, but the problem is you're left with less of an income. So you need to think that very carefully. There are ways of doing it. So the discounting, I would and I say caution because each site is different. So I would caution around a blanket discounting of ticketing. I would try and understand where your high demand times are and push into discount in the lower demand times. So for example, at the Cableway, sunset is a beautiful time. Nobody ever comes at sunset because everyone gets told to come first thing in the morning. We did a half price special after 6 because nobody ever came at 6 o'clock. And eventually we had 1,000 people come up after 6, and it became one of our busiest times of the day in season. And so that's called variable pricing, that's time dependent, where you push people into the quieter parts of the day where you know you need the extra business. Actually, and I'm counting the conference now, but at our conference, we'll have one case study of someone who did that overseas, a very small family-run site, and they will share an example of how they did just that. It's also around understanding what your domestic market wants to do. So for example, the international market tends not to travel with children. Only 3% of internationals travel with children to South Africa, whereas in South Africa, a day out with your family is clearly something what you want to do. So you need to make sure that the whole family can be entertained for the entire time on site. The first person to get tired or grumpy or 2-year-old to throw a tantrum dictates when that group leaves, and you want to encourage that dwell time as long as possible.
Thanks. I think that's well answered. From that stems the next question. I'm not going to carry on the whole day because I'll keep you busy the whole day. But I think our chapter itself it's very exciting to hear that this is where the trends are going. That everyone wants to experience things and not buy things anymore. But for our chapter, that is very exciting. The problem we sit with, and that is again what you just said about a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum, is putting packages and deals together or collaborate with different product owners where we can keep everyone in the family busy, from a 2-year-old right through to the grandfather or grandmother. That is, and also, people have got different interests. The younger people want to do exciting activities where older people maybe want to go to museums or to, where did you go to? I'm joking. But that is where it's difficult for us to put packages together that attracts everyone, a whole group.
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
Yeah, so I think it's to my slide where I'm saying you need to pace and curate your site. So, for example, if you're an adventure activity, I don't know your site very well, but in the experience economy, there is the joy. And actually, I was talking to Graskop Gorge Lift Company about this. They were saying that there's a lot of people who do the bungee jump, but there's as many people who watch it. Okay, so the grandmother and the 2-year-old, if there's a comfortable bench or space to sit and watch other people doing this adventure activity, that's how you've now curated the site for the family. Granny doesn't want to do it, but she's happy watching someone else do it. And if she can lick an ice cream with her grandchild and treat him or her to a little cookie that can only be found at your site in the shape of a tractor for the tractor rides, then that's something that can work. So it's around seeing your site holistically, and not only curating active experiences, but curating points and periods of rest for people who perhaps don't want to participate in everything. Again, at a museum, not everybody wants to see the art, but my husband goes to the top and has a beer and looks at the view. That's fine. He's on site and I can take my time. So it really is about curating that entire site and understanding it holistically. Or it's about saying, here's this adventure activity. I know you're tired afterwards, but you know what? There's a great coffee shop around the corner and I'm going to direct you there for some chill time. And Granny can go there ahead of time and we'll meet you there later. So it really is about seeing the site holistically.
Okay, so that's also then obviously your secondary expenses that you spoke about. That's very important. You can use this then to create different experiences for everything. Thank you very much. I see we've got a hand raised. Matloho, would you want to ask a question?
Yeah, and maybe also if you can introduce yourself, where are you from?
And you look very cold, Matloko.
Hi, my name is Matloko Nolontimani. I'm representing 6 Views Mountain Activities. We are a township, we are based in a township called Karangua in the north of Pretoria. And we've been part of Tshwane tourism but we are really struggling right now to create a story around the tourism in the Black townships.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get places like Soweto and Khayelitsha in Cape Town, where there are defined routes where you can take your international tourists from one point to another. I know there's a route that exists right now that runs from the urban areas into Soutpan, currently in Tshwane, and which is a very lovely route. But we also need to take advantage of other routes in the area which have very significant themes in terms of agri-tourism, in terms of wellness tourism, in terms of education tourism, as well as teaching people about their culture and heritage, which is very rich around that area. And I think maybe our biggest challenge is just getting the city to notice us in that region. For instance, we do offer adventure tourism in the township. It's just behind the Medunsa, the Medical University of South Africa. I think it's now called the Fakomakatu University. So we are just behind them on a mountain. So we offer, people can come in there and do hikes and camping and all of that. It also has the first 702 towers were actually in that area, on that mountain. We've got beautiful history on that mountain. We've got a beautiful history of educated people around the area who were involved in wellness throughout the years, even in apartheid. So you've got beautiful stories of success that needs to be told to our international tourists.
Yeah.
So my biggest question is just, how do we get people interested in us as a region?
Well, it's the $1 million question. So first of all, international tourism is going to take a long time to return to 2019 levels. And I can tell you that township tours or community tours all over the world, okay, because Brazil has the favela tours, they're all struggling, okay, because traditionally domestic tourists aren't your primary visitors of township tours, traditionally, okay. Saying, how can the city help us? I don't know, guys. City Schmitty, I don't know what it's like there, but in Cape Town, kind of pointless. Anyway, do I listen what the Tshwane city tells me where to go? No, I listen to influencers and what I see on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, etc. So find some interesting voices that can curate what your offering is, and genuinely, you know, I mean, if I think of, I don't know if you follow Trevor Stuurman or I See a Different You, the latest men's GQ magazine, if you page through there and you see the beautiful African township celebration, you know, that's the kind of voice I'd like to see in these communities. I find the ones that are curated for tourists a little bit inauthentic. So I would find 2 or 3 people that are skilled and that can post these stories on Instagram, and you create a virtual community that then translates into something else. Waiting for any kind of, what do I call it, formalized person to do this for you, and particularly waiting for international tourists, is a very long game. Curate your own authentic story with great, strong visuals. I mean, do you know I See a Different You? Do you follow them at all?
No, I don't. But I'm gonna give myself a copy of Men's GQ that you're talking about, just so that I can get.
So there was just the visuals in Men's GQ are very much like I See a Different You, and I See a Different You is a great Instagram set to follow, where basically they went into the townships and they say, we're sick of townships being portrayed in this poverty, not necessarily the most beautiful environment, and they just show the beauty and some of the fashion and some of the style that sits there, which is directly now being taken by the GQ, in my opinion. So it's about honing in on what's special and highlighting that, kind of putting a spotlight on it. And so really, I would say social media is your best, cheapest, quickest way of doing it, and you build a community through social media.
All right.
Yeah, and
Thank you so
Matakanolo, so also something that you can keep in mind on our visit Tshwane.co.za website, we are actually trying to also promote experiences. So we have a specific page that we also promote, that people can go and look for experiences. And also we are now packaging. So if you have a package, you can also do online ticket sales through the TTA. So there's a lot of things that we are exactly looking at that. And I agree with Sabine. We cannot and should not forget about the local tourists, because I am one of them. And I, for instance, would love to come and see the mountain and have that experience if I knew what is there to do. So yeah, so we need to work together for sure.
Nico, can I just jump in here? Yeah, just also with local, just from my side also. I think this is also a very good platform, the TTA, and with what we're doing here today, and that is exactly what the purpose of this meeting is to network. One of the things that we're trying to do as well is now in our quieter times now at the moment is to have open days. I've had a couple of open days where I would invite role players like the people on this forum today. Invite a couple of them, do a day out, show them it's impossible to sell a product if you don't know the product. I cannot send people through to you if I don't know your product. So I think that is very important, and that will also then, like Sabine said, bring back the domestic tourists, because you need to know. And what we've seen in Dinukeng, which is part of TTA, the lodges has flourished after the first lockdown. And the reason for that is people are investigating what they have in their own area. Because of the lockdown of the borders, people couldn't go out of Gauteng. So they investigated what was in Gauteng. And that is what we need to bring to the domestic market. And by doing it in the forum like this is the best way to go, in my opinion. Can I ask that? Otherwise, we're going to run out of time, guys. Is there anyone else that want to ask a question to Sabine on her presentation?
Yeah, I just want to add, we're definitely going to use that for the restaurants. I mean, Sabine, we are in the attractions chapter, and myself and Andrew has been talking about it. You know, restaurants is actually an attraction. You know, it's an emotional part of your experience, because, you know, food and enjoyment and socializing, and they don't get it. So I can't wait to share this on the restaurant chapter specifically, because they need to understand that we cannot work in silos anymore. If we want to recover and have the best chance of doing it as soon as possible, we're going to have to work together. You know, just in this room alone, there's so many things that is unknown to somebody like myself, for instance, and I'm a resident in Tshwane. So that's what we need to fix. We need to get our stuff out there, and we need to make sure that we've got our visitors facing website. It is known to anybody that wants to come to Tshwane, not like having to Google and all sorts of nonsense like that.
I mean, I was thinking now, an interesting exercise, I don't know how you would do it, is if everybody who's on this call here said, if I said to them, or you said to them, show me 2 of your favorite Instagram pics about your own site. And then for us to say, right, does this tell me where you are? Is this actually interesting looking? Because I don't know, like some of the things I think I'm going like, really? You think that's going to draw me there? You know, visual imagery is so strong, especially amongst younger people. And I'm not sure everybody even has an Instagram or has Facebook or whatever. So, you know, social media really is the cheapest, most egalitarian form of reach. Find a voice. Matlachongonolo, I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce your name properly. You know, there's probably a really great storyteller in your community who you can give a takeover to for the week or the month, who can tell their story in an authentic voice that's so much more powerful than any government website telling you where to go. So, and yes, back to you, Nico. It's a holistic day out. If I have a fantastic experience at site A, but a really crap meal somewhere afterwards, and remember, the place where you have the meal is the place where you're sitting, looking at your phone together with your friends, swapping images, upgrading Instagram, talking about it. It's part of the thing. The whole thing has to talk to each other.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why we also we have our WhatsApp group for this chapter, for the TTA. We need to start pulling together, guys. It's like as you were talking, I'm thinking. So you're talking to a attractions chapter, but for me in the hotel chapter, I need to show my people in the hotel. Listen, guys, let's go find something close to us that we can point people to. They're in this hotel. Find a Instagrammable spot. I mean, there's so many things that we can do, and it's like it talks to everything. It's about an experience, and I mean that's what people often miss. And it's like mine mentality that keeps us so isolated, and that doesn't give a great experience, because a great experience is variety. I mean, we don't just come here just to have a coffee at the Manhattan. I mean, come on, you wanna be doing stuff, and you wanna bring your family. And I love what you said to Hanru. I mean, that's so out of the box. Create a resting spot for Granny and the ice cream. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Can I ask, is there anyone else that want to ask a question? Okay. Sabine, it seems you're off the hook.
Yeah, I really want to encourage everyone to come to our Avia Attractions Conference.
Please,
really,
how do they do that?
So you can go online. Avia, I'm going to quickly post the on the chat. I'll post the thing.
Sabine, can I ask Liz to maybe just email or WhatsApp it to the whole chapter, and also to everyone on the meeting, because there's other information that we need to send through to the people as well.
Yeah,
it's going to be easier for everyone to have it on record like that.
Great. So basically, you just register, and we've got, I mean, for example, I'm sharing the first benchmark study, and where we're talking about what on average is the ticketing income. What is the average domestic visitor versus international visitor? What is the spread like? So very interesting to benchmark yourself against others. Then there's a talk on variable pricing, which I think rather than discounted pricing is the way for visitor attractions to go. So for example, just a quick example is the Kango Caves in Oudtshoorn is really oversubscribed from about 11 till 3 in the afternoon, because everybody wakes up, has breakfast, drives to the Kango Caves. You kind of get there 10:30, 11 o'clock. They can only have X amount of people in the caves a day, because it affects the air quality for the stalactites and stalagmites. So you've got that thing to worry about. So let's say you can only ever get 500 people a day. So, but now all those 500 people are arriving at the same time, and you can't take them, and there's a queue, and the experience is bad. What I've been trying to say to them is what you should do. Say, look, if you come at the 9 o'clock opening, in other words, you skip breakfast in the hotel, your ticket will include breakfast at Kango Caves, okay? So it's discounted because you're now getting a breakfast. You're encouraging a whole lot of people to come early in the day, and you're still making up the money in the secondary spend. They're having a great experience because it's quieter, and it leaves the gap open for those at 11 to 3 who can only come at that time of the day. So it really is about segmenting your pricing and days of the week to shift demand in a little bit more of a sustainable, flatter curve through the day, through the school holidays, through the week. So there'll be a talk on that. Then there's a talk by Bernard Donoghue, who's the CEO of the Association of Leading Visitor Attractions in the UK, and he's talking about attractions as locations-based entertainment, which I think will be fascinating. Then we've got a panel with South African attractions who've done really well during lockdown with locals. Kraskorp is one of them, Cape Nature is one of them. You know, they've seen a massive uptake by the domestic middle class and also Black African, which is amazing. I mean, that's what we've all been wanting for years. It's happened for us. How do we make that sticky, and how do we make sure we're talking to these people and that we're fulfilling their needs? Maybe they're different, maybe they're not. Anyway, and then a whole lot of other talks as well. So a one on using multi-sensory tricks at your site to ensure that all the senses are engaged, because that's what you can't get at home. So particularly aroma and smell, totally underestimated, and we know how strong that memory can be. So again, practical, useful ways of improving your experiences.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think we're going to move on. I think we ran out of time for our first meeting. This was amazing. Thank you very, very much for this. I'm going to definitely use this again and again and again, and bring it back to some of the people that haven't seen the video, couldn't make it. So thank you very much, Sabine. Just to end off from my side, I think we're going to open on the agenda. We're going to open the floor a little bit to anyone that wants to ask any other questions regarding the chapter. In other words, the different categories. Saying just before I open it, we are looking to putting a committee together under the attractions chapter. So I need a committee member of each of the different categories, and I'm going to ask Liz also to send this through the information of the different categories. In other words, adventure, arts and culture, history, nature reserves, theme park, and sports. We need a representative of each and every one of these categories. So if you want to put up your hand and be part of this, lots of information and interesting things to throw around, and I think that's where we need to start collaborating between us. So anyone that is interested in serving on the committee, or if you want to recommend anyone, you can mail through to me, and Liz will please also put my email address through to everyone so that you have that information. So back to the agenda. I want to open the floor to anyone that want to discuss or ask anything on this platform.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to put on your videos because it's just to see each other, and also just to maybe give some feedback on what you guys thought of the meeting today and going forward. You know, Andrew is doing this, it's his first one, so you know, a feedback would be very valuable to him, because he's obviously very passionate about it, but it's not the 100th show, it's the 20th show. So we definitely want you guys to participate and get involved, because yeah, it's exciting.
Nico, I think we've lost most of our participants.
Yeah, I don't know if they know that they're muted. Ask all to unmute. Let's unmute. And yeah, if you want to put your videos on. Andrew, I think while we get anybody else, I think yeah, this is such a great start for you, and thank you for all your efforts, and having Sabine part of this is just so exciting. And you know, it's like, it feels like it's something that you also said is like, so you know, like I'd said to somebody the other day, I can't remember when was the last I was like really happy and dancing, you know, because it's just, there's just so much going on for all of us. So I think, you know, having something that is not so in your own space anymore is definitely something that's going to happen, you know, and like focusing on getting good portals in place where people can actually find experiences. I think that's going to be the important part. So that's something that we will push and work hard on, Andrew, also in this chapter, to make sure that people sort of like get an opportunity to maybe also, you know, show their product in a platform where we all know what's happening, so that we can actually understand, you know, who wants to team up with who, if it's a 2-hour experience, if it's a 1-hour experience. Those are the things that we can't just focus on what we want for our own businesses. We need to focus on, okay, when they're done with me, where can they go? And sort of like work together with that property, because they can do the same. That's going to be key.
Thank you, Nico. I see Matlocho's got her hand raised again.
Awesome.
Yeah, yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for this platform. It's been very eye-opening, and when Sabine said about being in Tshwane Museum and not knowing where to go next, that is definitely how my experience has been with the city of Tshwane, that there is no coherent plan that exists, you know, uniting us as tourism people that offer tourism to the city. So I'm very grateful that, you know, that she confirmed exactly what I've been suspecting. And I'm very excited also that, you know, you spoke about themes, because in my understanding of tourism in Cape Town, for instance, you know, the wine farms and everything around that, it you know, it tells a story and a journey of the city, and that's what we need to start doing as City of Tshwane, to start telling those stories. So thank you so much for this platform. I look forward to working with everyone.
Excellent. So also to give you guys some feedback as well. So the Tshwane Economic Development Agency, TDA, they have been doing quite a lot of amazing work behind the scenes. And Hulisani, which is now in tourism, she's the acting director of tourism. We are working closely together with them in terms of creating communication platforms. So now more than ever, it's important that you guys are part of the TTA in terms of engaging. You will not have a voice if you are not actually part of the discussions. The challenges that you will have. These are the things that will be listed, because when we sit together and when we go in for a meeting, it will be every 3 months. We will we will decide on the frequency of the meetings. But Hanru, for instance, under attractions, he will be sitting at the table. But if you have stuff specifically relating to your area, Garankuwa, we're going to have to put them on the table. And if you're not part of the discussions and you don't bring it to anybody's attention, we actually can't address them and actually get them to be on the list. And then somebody, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to mobilize the whole city in terms of the different sections, because what we found is that there's so many departments that are interlinking. So for instance, safety and security, it's a completely different section, and it's not part of tourism. However, it is a huge part of what tourism sector would need from the city. And as well as maintenance, conservation, you name it, there is so many things and so many moving parts. And what we are trying to do is we're going to try and get it all together so that we all understand or give the city a good understanding of their role that they play within tourism.
Thank you, Nico. Nico, can I ask you just 10 seconds, 2 minutes, you can never get 10 seconds. Just to explain to everyone, how does the packaging product work through the QTB system that you're trying to put together, so that we can collaborate and put different things together to form a package?
Absolutely. So what we've done is we've created an online platform. It's one of our supplier members of TTA. It's called Q2B. It's Quote to Book. So what you do is we have a Google form and a link that we'll also send to everybody. We did send it out. So if you've missed it, what you do is you can go and create a package and a price, and you can decide. So you can, for instance, add your attraction, also include another attraction, and you can create a whole experience for somebody to do, because that's the whole point of this online channel. And what happens is that you can also then, as a consumer, because this will go live on the 1st of August, we will send it out to a 5,000 plus database of locals, and also promote it on Facebook, X, Y, and Z. So what people can do is they can go and have a look at what experiences are available. They can book and pay online a ticket. It won't be for a specific date. So you, as the product, will then go back to the client and assist them with a date when they want to book. So for instance, the Manhattan Hotel, we created a date night package of different things that we can do. And as an attraction, I mean, there's so many things that you guys have. So you decide what would be appealing for a traveler or a local tourist to actually buy your product. And it'll also be a very good time for you to actually promote your product, your website, and sort of like giving them an idea of what's out there, what they never know about.
Will you be able to use other product owners within the TTA or through this channel to put a package together? In other words, if I want to put let's say an activity package for the day, can I use different product owner, like a restaurant or someone else, and put a package together like that?
And the thing is that you're going to select something and you're going to put it in your basket. So for instance, if somebody is going to buy my experience, I need to then decide, okay, I'm going to include a day to a romantic trip through something, but I'm going to have to include it in my package. And this is where collaboration is very important. So say, for instance, if you've got a great restaurant that's very close to you and you want to include that because you think it'll enhance the experience of the package, you then go and speak to the customer, to that other product to say, listen, I'm going to sell this. Can you give it to me like a 3-course meal for value of 150 Rand? And you can get the payment, and you can then arrange that with the product or owner that's next to you. So collaboration is going to be important for that specifically.
Okay, and collaboration between the different product owners. Last question on that then specifically is there on the platform somewhere where you can actually go and look for different restaurants and places to go to? Let's say I want to do an adventure package together, and I want to use a transport company to bring the... Is there on the platform a place where we can get the different members to then contact them to collaborate if you don't have someone?
Absolutely. So if everybody can go and have a look at www.visittshwane.co.za. That is our visitors facing website for members. It's different sections. I can quickly show you guys what it looks like. So you also see there on our normal website, if you go to Visit Tshwane website, it'll show you the different activities that you can look for. We've got a nice page where it shows the events. So this gets updated by the office. So what's on is basically, and this is what happens, the travel market, you're going to get started. If you click on that, let me show you what it looks like. So the packages, these are the package that's already been loaded. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have many that people can go. And then there is info, like you can see on, you can go and create information. You can point them to, your website. It's got a lot that we can do. And then also, people are actually going to book and pay online, add it to their basket and pay, and the money will be paid over to the product. So you don't have to have your own online channels that people will have to set up. It's actually something that we are hosting. And then when you are done, you can go on what's on. It'll show you the different things that you can do in Tshwane, where to stay, where to play. You guys, as I said, the sexy part of the the chapter, the association is the attractions. That's where people go and have experiences. So that's on the play. Eat, restaurants, pamper, which would be spas. Meet is conferencing, and travel is if you want to book a shuttle or tour operator that can assist you with, like you said, if you need people to do transport, if you want to take them to different restaurants.
Okay, Nico, thank you very much. Is there any other questions from the floor to Nico on this packaging? Nico, thank you very much. I think, is there someone?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay. Sorry, you asked me as well. Okay, guys, I think there's some problems with the network there. I think for a first meeting, we're already running late. So that means obviously there's a lot that people want to say. And I'm very, very grateful. I already see that Sabine is saying that you can see there's a lot of people that want to engage. That is fantastic, guys. I'm very positive. I've already received some people for the names for committees. Please send them through. We're going to have our next meeting the 1st of September. We will send out some information on it. It will be a Wednesday morning again at 10 o'clock. So if anyone has got a problem with the time or the dates, please let us know so that we can change, maybe to get to a different time frame to our next meeting and include everyone. But at this stage, then 10 o'clock for the 1st of September. And last opportunity for any questions or anything that anyone wants to say or introduce yourself.
Yeah, and also if you want to, guys, if you have something specific that you think that would be relevant and that would be interesting, we can then go and find an appropriate speaker like Sabine. She's going to be a tough act to follow, but we will definitely do our best to get somebody in line with what is the topic of discussion, and that will guide Handru in terms of you know, what would be interesting and what you guys would need from this platform.
Can I say one thing? I just want to add one thing that you've both alluded to, Handru. You said, you know, you've got to be part of the association. I can't stress enough how part of the problem in South Africa actually, is that attractions, the sexy part of the industry, Nico, I must remember to quote you on that, have never actually, let's be honest here, done the work for the tourism industry to understand the role that they play. So we are often overlooked as the reason why people come. So people come to do stuff, both internationals and domestics, and you leave the house to do stuff, okay? So, but attractions themselves have been very slow to form associations via the TTA or AVIA to provide data. So we've done this benchmark study. We had 52 responses. I mean, really, we should have had 200 or 300. You cannot think that you are going to convince SA Tourism of the importance of your industry if you don't provide data, okay? So, you know, you've got to participate. You've got to have a seat at the table, and no one can listen to 100 voices. They will listen to TTA Attractions Chapter. So it's one person, Handru, who speaks on your behalf, but you've got to feed into that. And that's really the role that you play. If you don't do that, you cannot expect people to know about you or to understand how important your industry is. So it's not a difficult role to play. It's the role we should all be doing in our industry anyway. But I think research, sharing data, connecting with each other, being part of your association, those are powerful, powerful tools that, in a way, the good news is has never been used, so the only way is up.
Correct. Yeah.
Sabine, thank you very, very much. And thank you very much for your interesting talk. Sean has got his hand raised. Sean?
Yes. My name is Sean Wilkinson. I'm the Chairman of Economic Development and Planning in the city. And we also have the tourism portfolio inside that chapter, for use of a better word. Thank you to Nico for including me in this discussion. Our next collaboration will be in August, where the Department of Tourism and the different role players, Nico participated in the one in June, will be playing a role, and make sure that your thoughts and ideas and your best practice is shared there, because the sooner we take hands for the bigger picture, the better for all of us. So I'm very excited about this. Great presentation, great insights. Pity the city dropped the ball on a few things, but it's not something we can't fix. Thanks. Have a great day. See you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. That just goes to show that immediately we've got some collaboration already between the city and the product owners, and that's fantastic. That is exactly the purpose of what we're doing this for. Guys, I'm going to close this meeting. Nico, thank you very much for your hard work, and Liz and the ladies from the office, thank you very much, guys. And Sabine, I cannot stress enough the appreciation from our side for your wisdom, and through all your information, you've actually motivated us as well. I cannot believe anyone can motivate a product owner in this.
I'm about to go create a resting area for ice cream.
Fantastic.
Well, Granny.
Okay, guys. So up till the next meeting, I hope we see and hear from you guys before the meeting. because this is what it's all about. Let's start collaborating and let's start communicating within each other. And see you then on the 1st of September. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone, for your time.
Bye-bye.